Hey, what's up, everybody? Frederick Polk here. So, the Netanyahu regime and their man made famine in Gaza, specifically against the Palestinian people, has a lot of people comparing them to Nazis. And that's not quite historically accurate. It's getting closer by the day, but it's not the best one. There's a better one. But before I get into that, please like and subscribe. It helps me out. And if you want to see my face again, it helps out with that too. So back in the 1920s, the Soviet Union had Ukraine. It had it from the Russian Empire. And they carried out this policy called collectivization. Basically what it was is they were going to take all privately held land, all the farmland, and then strip it from everybody who owned it, and then force the workers into a collective. And then you would be allotted by the government on how much food and how much crop you would get. And this was done by the Soviets in order to lash back out against the landowners, right? Which before that were, some of them were nobility, others were very wealthy people. Because you have to remember at this time, the Russian economy and Ukraine was based on agricultural products. In fact, their ruble wasn't backed by gold, it was backed by wheat. So that's how important agriculture was to the Russian economy or the Soviet economy. The big problem was the people they put in charge weren't farmers, they weren't agricultural specialists. They were party loyalists. They were people who showed the most loyalty to Lenin and Stalin. And so that's how you got that job. And all they cared about higher up was just making quotas. They didn't care how you did it. So inevitably, what happened was a lot of people lost their land. They were forced to work in these collectives by people who didn't know what the hell they were doing, that were ideologically driven. And you created a man-made famine. Reportedly, millions of people died as a result of it. I say reportedly because we don't know the true estimates, because there was never a full accounting. It had to be done by historians decades later. And there is an argument to be made that the Soviets did this to the Ukrainian people to break their spirit, because the Ukrainians have never liked, throughout the entire history of being under Russia's thumb. And Russia has done everything they possibly could to break the Ukrainian people. They wiped out their language, where they were forbidden from speaking it or writing in it, so much so that poets in the 19th century had to actually recreate it because it had been lost for generations. What little was left, they had to come up with a new language, essentially. They didn't want them to have any power. They didn't want them to have any representation. They tried Russification, which was essentially to wipe out their culture, their heritage, every norm you could think of. So there is some validity to the Soviets, who were ostensibly Russian in mind and character and mentality, even if they weren't czarist, to break the Ukrainian people. It was a political and cultural warfare. That's exactly what's happening in Gaza right now. There's a reason that famines are brutally effective, because as human beings, we all have to eat. You don't get food or your caloric intake. You slow down. You get lethargic. You get weakened. your will to resist is wiped out. You do everything you can to conserve energy before you ultimately die horribly. It's a horrible way to die. That's exactly what's happening right now in Gaza. History repeats itself when we fail to learn the lessons of the past and we fail to check against those who would repeat those lessons. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Keep the faith, defend democracy, and I'll see you later.